to the cloud.
Here we go.
Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
Is that Brenda from the councilman's from the? Hi,
Hi,
Brenda.
yes. Hi, how are you guys?
Nice to see you. Thanks for making it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Savannah.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Antoinette.
Good evening, everyone.
All right. I'm just waiting for our quorum here. We've got a quorum confirmed. I'm just waiting. Hi, Pastor.
Hi, Pastor Louise. So good to see you.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
Terrific.
Good. Hi,
How are
Lisa,
you?
Barbara? I'm good. Thank you. I confess we're watching the Dodger games here, so I'm going to turn my sound off so that I'm not interrupting you meeting.
If anything happens, you can just give us a signal like this and like 2-0 or anything good happening because the last two
You
games were
got
not
it.
good.
You got it.
Tell them, Louise, that they can follow along as you raise your.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's touchdown. That's different.
Well, Jeff, Scott, can I get started? Because I have a quorum of 4 because we only have 7 on the committee right now.
Sure. It's your meeting. Take
And
it away.
well, I wanted to get my quorum, and then I've got Jeff Hartwick is cleared, and Sandy is cleared, and then Mitch had to withdraw because of work scheduling, but he's still working with me. Okay. I want to get started. Welcome, everybody. Call to order, established quorum. We have 4 of 7. I wanted to get approval of the minutes from last month.
I move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's pretty much that simple, right, Scott?
Go ahead.
Brandon, okay, thank
You're
you.
good.
All right, we're open for public comments on non-agenda items. We have no motions or community impact statements for this meeting, but we have representatives from our city, county, and state offices to report on what's happening in Studio City. And then we have a report at the end as far as motions and proposed things for policy. Okay, so we're open for a 1-minute public comments. Barbara, can you help me keep track so I don't have any duplicates?
Yes.
Let me get my timer here. Anybody?
So, sorry, there is background noise. Is this where I should,
Yeah,
I'm not part of this
public comment, Reverend
committee,
Goat.
but anyway, I just want to say thank you for the position that you've taken on handicap accessibility on the sidewalks. As you know, and others know, we have a son with significant disabilities who does use a wheelchair. And there are places where the sidewalks did become impassable because of the tents and the trash on the cities. So it's a big deal to me, to us, and for my son to be able to access the sidewalks. So thank you for being forward about keeping the sidewalks clear so that we can access the community. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment, 1-minute public comment, please, folks.
Yeah.
Hi, Antoinette.
A lot of people have their hands raised, so go ahead and call out, whoever you want to call out.
Kira's
Okay.
first on stack and then I'm after her.
I'm sorry?
Kira
Antoine?
is first on stack and then I'm
Oh,
after
hi,
Kira.
go ahead, Kira.
Great, thanks. So I just would like to say that anyone who advocates or supports sweeps, I think you're sorely misguided. Sweeps are very literally harmful to people. People lose their belongings, and worst of all, you know, like let's say LASA, they've taken 6 months and they finally found you a place to go, and then CD2 does a sweep, and now LASA has no idea where to find that person. So sweeps actually prevent housing. Moving on to the committee, I really don't think the chair of this committee should be taking credit for things that he has absolutely nothing to do with. And I'm pretty sure the rules of Empower LA, the chair of this committee should not be advocating for or taking action on anything that the actual neighborhood council board has not voted on. And lastly, the chair of this committee definitely should not be advocating or taking action with any government office outside of city governance. Randy has said this many times. I really hope
Time,
you
Kira,
take it into
that's
consideration,
time,
because I will be
Kira.
filing a grievance, filing many grievances against the chair of this committee.
Okay, thank you, that's time. Anyone else? Antoinette?
Hi, my name's Antoinette Scully. I operate the Studio City location of NoHo Home Alliance in Studio City at the UU Church. We're open every Tuesday from 8:30 to noon, and we offer safe and secure location for people to receive help resources, 2 hot meals, a bag meal to go, clothing, and a mailing address. We also help people navigate complicated paperwork and forms like DMV vouchers, SSI and SSD, CalFresh, birth certificates, and more. We have about 25 guests each week, and since April, we've placed at least 5 people into temporary housing from our location alone, and we're working with LASA to provide long-term permanent housing with the new emergency housing vouchers. These programs work best when we do outreach and drop-in programs, because people have a place to go and get resources, as well as they learn who their navigators are in real time, and we can reach out to people over and over again. Many of our guests are elderly, living in their cars, and we provide a safe place for them to reassess their needs and get help. If you'd like to provide help, you can give us your time, your talents, or your treasure. Your time by volunteering at our mostly volunteer-run program and outreach on Sundays, your talents by providing things like advocacy, communications, and networking, and your treasure by donating money to keep us open. We get the work done.
And great, thank you. That's time. Thank you, Antoinette. Scott Mandel? Go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Luis. I just wanted to say, I'm sure many of you have noticed there's been a sharp decline in the encampments, almost all of them in the Studio City and Studio City adjacent area. Some are completely empty now. Others have only just a few occupants. There are some exceptions, like the Park and Ride and the area behind the Vineland Ralphs, but overall, the reduction is pretty startling. And on another note, maybe related, maybe not, I've been with Luis when he's done his outreach, and I just want to say personally, I'm very impressed with what he does and how he does it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's another one from Jolly and Charlotte.
Great. Hi, Jolly. Go ahead, Jolly.
Microphone check. Okay, hi. Hey there, I'm Jolly. I also work at the Studio City location of the NoHo Home Alliance, where we connect our houseless neighbors with resources, including housing referrals. First, I wanted to just echo as well that I am all about accessibility. Thank you for working to make our city as accessible as it can be. I also wanted to thank Luis personally for his help in our outreach efforts, working with populations such as the one behind the Vineland Ralphs in particular. I also do want to point out as well that our outreach efforts are made much more complicated and difficult by ongoing sweeps. Sweeps are violent. They remove people from all their belongings. A lot of the people that we work with don't have cell phones. And so a lot of times that's the only way that we can get in contact with people is to go back to where we saw them last, where they're staying. So whenever a sweep comes,
That's
removes everything, we have to
that's
start
time,
at square
Jolly.
one, and they just block up an overpass somewhere else. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jolly. Appreciate it. Okay, Charlotte?
Hi, everybody. I would just like to say a heartfelt thank you to all those who were responsible in cleaning out the underpasses where the homeless were congregating. We couldn't even pass by in traffic. I was so nervous that I was going to get held up or somebody run over with a knife. Studio City has become a nightmare, and now it looks so much better. Sometimes I hear my first siren at around 4 o'clock instead of 9 a.m. I mean, and I'm praying that the park and ride at Universal in Studio City can also get cleaned up. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You need Peter Cole and Kira.
Peter?
Hey, Louise, I just wanted to thank you for all you've done. I'm really impressed with how you actually go out there and get your hands dirty. I've been around the neighborhood council for a long time. I was around before just at the beginning of the homeless committee. You were absolutely the best chair I've seen so far, and really, really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? I was hoping we get more folks. Anyone else for public comment?
I think you're good.
Actually, I'm so sorry.
Hi, Grace. You don't have to apologize. Welcome.
Hi. I'm here because I'm a UCLA student and I'm doing a project on it's for a class called Sociology of Religion. I don't want to waste anyone's time. This is totally unrelated, but I know that you guys work directly with the church. And if anyone from the church would be willing to get interviewed, because I think it's what you guys are doing for sustainability and the environment and food and all of that is really amazing. So I don't know if anyone here, I think Luis, you're one of the pastor's wife, I believe. But I would love to have a meeting if that whatever time would ever allow, because I think this is amazing and it speaks right to the point of sustainability within our communities and food sustainability. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, I think that covers public comment. Barbara, yes?
Yes, I don't see anybody else. People that have spoken, can you put your hands down? Oh, call in user number 2, Louise.
All right, go ahead, caller user number 2, please.
Hi, this is Ruth, your roofless neighbor. I was just wondering if any other homeless people are here in this meeting right now. Thank you.
Is that it?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's keep moving. Public comments are done. An update. It's been an interesting 2 months, folks. It's been quite the learning curve. Basically, all I've done is, as I've continued to do, is weekly I go out and anyone is invited on Fridays at minimum in a van, and I go to all the local spots where I feel that they're the most homeless people there, and I talk to the homeless residents, I talk to the local businesses, and I talk to the housed residents in the area, get them my contact information, explain the best I can. Savannah made a flyer for me and said go to a ground game, and so we've been able to get that information out, and then the residents and whomever and homeless residents will email me, and then I will route them. I will call Antoinette generally directly because she represents the Studio City drop-in program, and so I'll talk to her. We text each other pretty regularly, and whatever I can do to support their program, I do. And then, just like when I was at the pantry, I basically, the existing faith programs, nonprofit programs, I help bridge the gap with those and the things that are going on with the city the county, and the state so that we are all working together in a concerted effort with resources. And my primary emphasis is mental health specialists, substance abuse specialists on the street. I've been reporting weekly to those offices on the symptoms and the circumstances on that street. And per Randy's directive to me when I took the position reluctantly, but felt like I was needed to do this, I am representing the housed and the unhoused alike. So our first guest, I think we've made some great progress with the city, is is Lorraine there? And Lorraine's going to do a presentation, everybody, to tell us about what's going on with the city. And Lorraine, you've heard some of the public comments. If you could address some of those along the way, possibly HMST, possibly Greenway, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey, Louise, thank you to the Studio City Neighborhood Council for inviting me, to your committee meeting, and thank you to Louise for coordinating this. I don't know if I have a presentation so much as I don't know if you're gonna allow me to screen share, because then I can have a little presentation. I saw that some people are calling in, so I'll try to describe what I showed.
Scott, can you empower Lorraine so she can do a screen share? Or Randy, if you're on the call?
I don't have the administrator privileges anymore, but you should be able to do that, Luis.
Okay, I talked to Randy. Help me through this. It said he was going to help me with this. Where are you, Randy?
Hit the green button on the lower
Screen share, I
bar.
see it. Thank you. There it is. Okay, I can see that from myself.
It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing. That's okay. I'll just,
You need to promote Lorraine as host. So if you go to the participants and find her name, there's a blue button that says more, and then you can promote to host.
Hold on.
If you click participants.
I'm looking. Okay, go to more and putting one spotlight to everyone. Make co-host.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Not. All right. Go ahead, Lorraine.
okay, let me try this again. Oh yeah, it's gonna let me. Share sound. Oh, I don't have any sound on that one. There, can you guys see my screen? Is that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let me see. You can tell I'm really good at this one. I'm being sarcastic. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview. So I'm Lorraine Diaz. I'm district director for Councilmember Krikorian, who currently oversees Studio City. I don't know if any of you have been following the redistricting drama. We may not oversee Studio City in the future. So if you have any opinions on that, either in support or against, I would suggest you reach out to your redistricting commissioners. I also oversee all of our homelessness initiatives. So that's one of the reasons I have put this presentation together for a couple of different groups, but I thought I would share it with you guys since we have a couple of people on here who seem like they're pretty well versed in a lot of the things we've done, but there may be some new people who aren't aware of all of our different pilots and whatnot. So first thing is our North Hollywood Navigation Center. It's kind of like a drop-in center, similar to what Luis and a couple other people mentioned, that NoHo Home Alliance does, and Hope of the Valley has one in Van Nuys, and these different drop-in programs that were working so well for the nonprofit sector. We thought we should do this. The city should be involved in drop-in services. The city should offer somewhere where people can come, at least 6 days a week and get a shower, use the restroom, and have a free place to store their belongings. So at our navigation center, it's at 11839 Sherman Way. Actually, I just realized you guys can see this little box too. Huh? Let me move this out of the way so you can actually read everything that's happening. There, is that better? Mm-hmm. Oh, much better, thank you. So at 11839 Sherman Way, they're open 6 days a week. I think it's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. during the week and 8 a.m. to 3 on Saturdays. They also have an employment center. This location was previously a day labor center. So we brought that employment component back. Excuse me. Project Roomkey, you guys are well aware that that's closed now. Bridge housing. We have 2 different bridge housing sites in our district. One in North Hollywood and one in Van Nuys. All of them offer the exact same services, temporary housing to help transition people into permanent stable housing. So it's not meant to be their permanent home, but it is meant to be, connecting them to the right resources so that they're able to make that transition more quickly, more seamlessly, and with as much support as possible. So a bridge home, these are our two sites. One is, kind of a sprung structure, kind of like a metal pop-up tent, and the other one is a building, but they both are essentially cubicles with no door, twin size bed, a little nightstand, some drawers for storage underneath. They have a computer center, same services, 3 meals a day, case management and access to those services. Our tiny home villages, you may have heard of these. These were kind of all over the news for a while. We've opened 3 throughout our district. Our last one, or our most recent one, opened about 3 weeks ago at Whitsett and Satakoy. All of these include all of the services that can be found at our bridge housing sites. It's just a different format. Instead of the little cubicles that I showed you earlier, these are standalone 8x8 individual structures. They also have individual air conditioning and heating, so they control their own air and heat. They also have fully locking doors, open, fully mechanical windows and all those things. In both versions, in bridge housing and in tiny home villages, people can bring their pets. They can bring their belongings. The one main difference that people find in the 2 different kinds of sites is that in bridge housing, normally there's a male side and a female side, and people are separated that way. In our tiny home villages, people can be partnered in the same unit if they want to be housed together. So if there is, wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whatever your version of family is, you can be housed together, up to 2 people in these units. So we've had any combination from, mother and adult child to, just people who were previously unhoused together, they want to be housed together. And this, we try to provide them with as much support as possible. This is what they look like on the inside. For those of you who haven't had a chance to take a tour. So who qualifies for our bridge housing and our tiny home housing programs? So anyone over the age of 18, they do have to be the HUD definition of homeless. They have to be activities of daily living independent. So that means that anyone who, you can be disabled, you can be in a wheelchair, but if you wear a diaper, you must be able to change your own diaper, things like that. They must be able to do their activities of daily life independently. They also must reside within the identified catchment area for that site. So, to simplify it, anyone who is experiencing homelessness in our council district is eligible for most of our sites, but they must be within the identified catchment area. These are also designed to be low barrier. So, moving away from the bridge housing tiny home concept, some of the pilots that we've been working on, we do like to start a lot of pilots in our district. We like to, try out different things, see what works, what doesn't work, and then see if we can implement them citywide. One of the things we're trying out now is a neighborhood UHRC program where we're bringing resources to a, predefined area and focusing those resources in a neighborhood to see, what happens. Will people engage? Will it improve the quality of life for the people experiencing homelessness in that area? Will it improve the cleanliness of things in that area? We just launched this pilot, I think it was last week. So I'll let you know how that goes in about 6 months. One of the other pilots that we had, and this is an old flyer, so forgive me. One of the older pilots we had that we launched last year prior to COVID was our Serve LA pilot, which is essentially an RV services pilot where we would do proactive septic tank pumping for people who were living in their vehicles or living in an RV specifically. And this little map up here was where we launched our pilot. Eventually we expanded it to 2 different sites. And we found that by doing this weekly interaction with people, offering them this service that hadn't been provided for them in this area before, they were interacting with outreach more often and in a more positive manner. So we were able to move some people into housing. We were able to get many of them medical treatment that they had put off. One elderly woman who was living in her vehicle, when we knocked on her door and offered her proactive septic pumping for her RV, she cried and said, "You don't know how much this means to me. You don't know what it means for you to do this. Every time I have to dump my tank, I have to move away from it. And I can't stay there where it pools, where the sewage pools and the smell and the flies. I have to move away from it. But every time I move, I don't know if I'm going to be safe. I don't know if I'm going to be robbed. I don't know, if I'm going to be hassled. It's a big move, but I have to do it in order to be able to, empty her septic tank. So for us to be able to pump out her septic tank regularly, it allowed her to stay within a community of people that she felt safe with, where services that she was receiving were nearby, and it improved her quality of life throughout COVID. This pilot was actually so successful that we are expanding it citywide. Sanitation is currently staffing up to where we can, and they are renewing a hazmat contractor, putting a hazmat contractor in place so that we can provide this service, proactive septic pumping citywide. And I know Luis wanted to know more about the homelessness multidisciplinary street team that we are launching, our HMST pilot. This is in addition to the MDT teams that are launching later this year. So this HMST pilot will involve probably closer to 30 unhoused individuals in our district who are basically the most frequent utilizers of services. So people who interact frequently with LAPD, LA Fire, outreach, whatever those services are that have the most challenging circumstances. So I know for Studio City, you guys know who some of these folks are. We've gotten calls about a woman with a colostomy bag and a wheelchair on Vineland and Ventura that has generated so many radio calls. We have a gentleman in North Hollywood who in the last year has been transported over 600 times. So these would be the most, the most critically ill, who will then be able to connect with services in a way that they haven't been able to do before in a coordinated fashion. So this pilot is set to launch, so it's fall 2021, but we actually just found out today it's probably going to be January. So we're going to launch at the beginning of the year to just kind of roll out with the year, with the new year. I'll update that date. But we are currently working with LAPD and LA Fire to identify good candidates for this program. And we hope to eventually connect them all with housing. This program is based on a model that was utilized in Santa Monica, that they also started out with about 25 people. And over the course of time, they improved the quality of life for people in their program. They were able to get many of them housed, but more importantly, they were able to get them, in some cases, they were able to save their lives. People who, would have probably died on the street because they were so critically ill and unable to care for themselves, they were able to receive the services that they needed to improve their situation. So that's I was going to skip to the 4118, but I want to see if there's any questions on any of that stuff before we skip to the 4118. I don't know if I'm left. Are the hands that are up already? Were they already up? Sorry, I was looking at the other screen. Peter Cole, it looks like your hand is up.
Oh, I think I'm empowered here.
Okay, or at least I don't know if you want to call on them because maybe there's other hands I'm not seeing.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay,
having
thank
the
you.
technical. I had some questions on the HMS. So right now we have the Studio City drop-in going with Antoinette and her team. We have the HMST coming, and then what was the other program you said in addition to?
MDT, so multidisciplinary teams. I believe that the city council has allocated one per council district. And those will be similar to the HMST pilot, but slightly different. I think those will be more general multidisciplinary teams that will address, mental health needs or, critical care needs for anyone experiencing a mental health crisis or some sort of crisis in the district, whereas the HMST teams will focus on the most critically ill.
So that's more resources in general. And then what about, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, someone said there was some budget appropriations that came through for more care and care plus teams that would be out. Did I hear that correct?
So Care and Care Plus, previously, Care Plus was a 5-day-a-week program. So Care Plus was a 5-day-a-week program, and Care was a 5-day-a-week program. So essentially, we had 10 days, or 5 days a week, where we were getting full service cleanings everywhere, and that amounted to, we could continue to service the same location, sometimes even multiple times in a week. During COVID, that was dramatically scaled back, both because of the emergency declaration, where we didn't want to move people and expose them, to potentially a deadly virus. Later, it was because of budget issues created by COVID, where we had to scale it down to just 1 Care Plus day per week. Sorry, 1 Care Plus day per week, but that meant we only got 4 and no care days at all. So only 4 cleaning days a month. And, if you're familiar with our district, how large it is, we go all the way from Sun Valley down to Studio City, from the Burbank border all the way over to Van Nuys Boulevard in some places. So for us to have 4 days of cleanings, we had much more than 4 or 8 or 12 encampments. We had, dozens of encampments that were all reaching, massive levels, where we were starting to see rats and outbreaks of not typhus, not COVID, but typhus, and things related to sanitation and hygiene. And thankfully, with this budget year, we were able to bring back a lot of the resources that we had cut back on. One thing we haven't been able to recover from just yet is that during COVID, and then also because many of the baby boomers are kind of aging out, we had a lot of retirements in the last year in the sanitation department. So we are trying to staff up. So if anyone knows of anyone who's looking for a job, sanitation is hiring. We've had to hire, I think it's 121 positions just in the Valley for sanitation to be able to staff up to the level we were at of 5 Care Plus days and 5 care days per week. Right now, we're currently at 2 Care Plus days per week and 5 care days. And we hope to be fully staffed and fully operational with the Care Plus cleanups by December, but that's contingent on them hiring sufficient staff.
So that's a good thing. More resources, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And then, can you elaborate about anything with Greenway Park and what's developing there, and how that might look in the way of outreach to get out there in the park before any beautification were to happen?
Yes. So if by Greenway Park you mean the section between Whitsett and Coldwater?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
No, between Laurel and Whitsett.
Laurel, yeah, thank you. Laurel and Whitsett. Sorry, Whitsett and Coldwater is a whole different.
It extends all the way out to Coldwater, but the area as far as the beautification, the area is the Whitsett to Laurel Canyon.
Yes. So thank you for bringing that up, because I did see that in your minutes, you had a pretty good detailed explanation there. But some of it, I was like, wow, you've really got the dollar amounts all set there. So that one, it was part of the money that the Santa Monica Conservancy gave to the city, which was $150,000. The city then had to find additional funding to do a project there that would, it is it's not just, we're going to throw some plants on a hillside. It does involve, more, it is a more labor intensive process than just throwing a bunch of plants up there. So that budget, it looks like the project budget is about $608,000. And it does go to, sorry, it's going out for bid November 1st. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. It's going out for bid November 1st. We hope to have a contractor in place by the end of November when the bid is done. And hopefully, have a date set for construction by December or January.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So any other questions on any of that stuff? Would you still like me to touch on 4118 or?
Yeah, if you can elaborate on what's happening with that, of course, it's great.
Of course. I'm just want to see if there's any other stuff I missed. Sanitation cleanup. All right, so 4118. Let me see if there's any visuals I can share with you. No, it's just a bunch of text. That'll be kind of boring too. So, so 4118 was almost unanimously passed by the council or reinstated by the council, you know, with the exception of a few, which previously we weren't able to enforce it because, you know, of lawsuits that said, and Supreme Court rulings that said that, you know, we cannot criminalize parts of being homeless and, you know, things like that. They also said that previous versions of this ordinance were too vague in that you cannot say, you know, people cannot be encamped in all parks or in all schools or in front of all libraries or whatever it is. It was just too vague. You're making it too broad and therefore unenforceable. So with this, you know, reincarnation of 4118, the city council has made it very, very specific. So here are the things that are not allowed ever anywhere at all and enforceable now. So these things are enforceable now. You cannot block ADA, so the 36 inches, you know, where you are allowing people to pass on the sidewalk, things like that. So no person shall obstruct the street, the sidewalk, or public right-of-way if it impedes ADA access. So that is enforceable now. Another one is blocking driveways or loading docks. They must keep at least 10 feet clear of a driveway or a loading dock. They have to keep 5 feet clear of an exit. So this would be doorways. We would get a lot of calls about businesses who would, you know, show up to work and their doorway had been turned into a makeshift shelter, unfortunately. And, you know, they would have to figure out some way to, unfortunately, wake them so that they could get into the building. But now, you know, they must keep 5 feet clear of a doorway. They also must keep 2 feet clear of a fire hydrant. And no person shall obstruct any portion of a street, a public right-of-way open for use by motor vehicles, or any portion of a bike lane, bike path, or other public right-of-way open to use by bicycles, which would also include that Greenway Park, right? Bike path. So those things are enforceable now, and then they cannot obstruct any of those things, or they must maintain those distances I mentioned. So here's where we get to the other parts. These would be, you know, the C part of this ordinance. So all of the other ones have to be by resolution, meaning we, you know, must say you cannot be here and here must be specified. So buffer zones by resolution would be 500 feet of a sensitive use site that is designated by, so it's not all parks, it's not all schools. So, sorry, this is where it gets confusing. So feel free to raise your hand if I am confusing you, because it took me a couple of tries to get this right. So bear with me. So 500 feet of a sensitive use site, which sensitive uses would be school, daycare, park, or a library. So those 4 things are considered sensitive use. And by resolution, we can say they cannot be here. So for those sites, we have designated 4 parks and 4 schools, basically. 4 parks and 4 schools in our district that we've designated as a sensitive use site. And the reason that we designated these as a sensitive use site is through extensive data that we've pulled from LAFD, LAPD, even county public health, where we've said, okay, we have had X amount of calls for service, X amount of emergency medical calls. You know, the totality of it is, it would be better if, you know, there were a buffer around this site because there are, you know, all these things happening there. For the second category for intervention sites, it's 1,000 feet of an intervention site. So an intervention site would be the ones that I went over earlier in the, you know, colorful visual presentation. It would be a designated facility opened after January of 2018 that provides shelter, safe sleeping, or safe parking to homeless persons, or that serves as a homeless services navigation center. So 1,000, so basically you can't be within 500 feet of a school, park, daycare, or library that is, you know, designated by resolution, or you can't be within 1,000 feet of an intervention site that is also designated by resolution. In Council District 2, we have designated all of our intervention sites by resolution. because that was the commitment we made to the neighborhoods when we brought these sites to them. We said we will, do as much as we can to mitigate the effects of having these in your neighborhoods. The next category by resolution is a passage route. So this would include designated, so it's not a blanket ordinance. We can't make it a blanket ordinance because then it gets tossed out in court as being too vague. So it has to be designated. All of these sites have to be designated. So the passage route category, they cannot be within 500 feet of a designated overpass, underpass, freeway ramp, tunnel, bridge, pedestrian bridge, subway, wash, spreading ground, or an active railway. So for those passage route locations, we have 4 in our district, 2 of which are in Studio City, actually. And again, for those sites, we had to pull extensive data from LAPD and LA Fire and, basically document that, there is a reason why we were removing them. And all of these documents are, submitted and uploaded to the city attorney's office and, go through this lengthy process before they are approved. So we cannot just arbitrarily say, well, we should also do these other underpasses while we're at it. Because if we don't have the supporting data, then essentially it's illegal, right? We can't just say, well, let's do all of it so that just in case we have an issue, it has to be documented that there is currently an issue or that there was, at the time of the ordinance. The last category is a 1-year prohibition in designated areas. So if a location doesn't meet that other criteria, that it's not, a sensitive use, school, park, daycare, library, it's not near an intervention site, or it's not, in a passage route, then the council can designate an area by resolution as long as it, again, has that supporting data. We currently, and what happens is by designating this location, that 1-year prohibition site, it creates essentially a 1-year ban where no one can set up any encampments at that location for up to a year. Right now, we don't have any designated locations for the 1-year prohibition. Councilmember Corian feels very strongly about not criminalizing homelessness, and he feels that this ordinance, this isn't criminalizing homelessness, but rather creates a street engagement strategy and an approach that provides intensive outreach and case management services, bringing them the resources they need to bring them indoors. One of the reasons that the council member put this motion forward was because we now have the capacity to house everyone who was unsheltered at the time of our last homelessness count. And so we do have beds to offer people. We are actively, and by we, I mean our office as well, we knows that we're pretty proactive. We go out and we talk to people, we move people directly into our tiny homes, directly into our bridge housing. We're also partnering with Council District 4, Councilmember Rahman's office on a street to homes program where at our shared border locations like, Lancashire in the 134, Moore Park in the 101, Coldwater in the 101, all those shared border locations, their outreach team is able to refer people into our housing interventions so that we can share resources and move people indoors. That's the ultimate goal. I know I threw a lot at you. Do you guys have any questions?
No, Lorraine, listen, thank you. And everybody can contact Lorraine directly, or you can contact me if you have any questions and I can get those to Lorraine and get back to you. Lorraine, I'll follow up based off the presentation. I want to get Brenda going here. We've got a couple other reps. I hope you can stay with us. And
yeah, I can stay on if you want me to take questions afterward. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lorraine. Okay, Brenda, we want to welcome our representative from the county. A lot of tough stuff going on over there, especially with park and ride and a few different things. And I lost you, Brenda. Hold on.
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Yanes. I am the field deputy for Supervisor Sheila Keel out of her Van Nuys district office. So I've been to the Studio City neighborhood councils in the past, the general board meetings, and I believe I've been to one of these homeless committee meetings along with our homeless and housing deputy, Rochelle Simon. She's unfortunately unable to make it today, so I'll be providing the majority of the updates in regards to some of the concerns that Luis and other neighborhood council board members have brought up to our attention. So just so that all of you are aware, I do oversee 10 out of the 20 communities out here in the San Fernando Valley that the supervisor does oversee. And one of those communities is Studio City. So first and foremost, I do want to thank you, Luis, for inviting me to be part of the homeless committee meeting for the Studio City Neighborhood Council. And everyone else on here, I recognize some of the names and some of the faces of a couple of the constituents who have been reaching out to our office regarding the park and ride lot in Studio City. Our office is definitely aware of all of the challenges at this site, and we definitely do recognize how difficult it is for the unhoused residents and housed residents in the neighborhood. As a result of all of that, we have been taking some steps in order to try and improve the situation. So I will be providing some brief updates about that park and ride in Studio City following right this moment. So as we all know, COVID-19 is still around, and we definitely did not expect the Delta variant to cause such a surge in cases as we've seen. And early in the pandemic, the CDC did issue guidelines not to disrupt the encampments for fear of spreading the virus. And the county is still adhering to those guidelines in order to protect public health and to save as many lives as we can. That decision did cause encampments to grow, for example, at the Ventura Park and Ride lot. But fortunately enough, we are now able to safely increase efforts to move people living in encampments to interim or permanent housing. Most recently, we did conduct a non-displacement cleanup on Wednesday, October 6th. The Department of Public Works, also known as DPW, removed a lot of all of the illegally dumped items and the trash and debris on the lot. And as usual, ongoing lot maintenance will continue. And as of right now, just so that you all know, Public Works has placed 4 dumpsters that are being serviced weekly, and porta potties with hand sanitizer dispensers on the lot. And those are being serviced daily, Monday through Friday. And we also have trash cans that are being serviced twice a week. And Public Works did install gates not so long ago at the entrance and exit of the lot to reduce illegal dumping on the lot, since that was something that we were noticing that was happening at the lot. And a lot of these illegally dumped items were not from the people experiencing homelessness on the lot, if not from people outside of the lot, that including constituents and other folks as well. In addition, we are continuing to augment those services in the park and ride lot. Law enforcement has increased their presence on the lot. That includes the security that we have on site 7 days a week. That also includes our county agencies like the Los Angeles Housing Authority, also known as LAHSA. And we also have the Sheriff Homeless Outreach Support Team, known as LASD Host Team. And service providers have been providing outreach to the people experiencing homelessness on the lot. And these efforts will continue to increase significantly over the next few weeks as we continue to connect individuals with housing and different services as well. So we meet weekly. Our internal county partners meet weekly. That includes myself, my district director, folks from Department of Public Works, our housing and homelessness deputies, and other folks from LAHSA, the LASD host team, LA Family Housing, et cetera, to continue to plan and see what we need to do in order to address this park and ride lot. We just, to put it out there, we greatly appreciate your patience and commitment to engage with our office and provide us with suggestions, concerns, and ideas as to how we can all move forward and make this situation better for our constituents and their families, for the people experiencing homelessness themselves and our business owners in the neighboring areas. And you can always go ahead and connect with me directly if you do have, if you want to have an offline conversation about this particular park and ride lot, and I'll be more than happy to speak to you. I know that I've talked to a couple of the board members on the neighborhood council and neighboring neighborhood councils as well. So I'm always open to have that conversation. I'll put my contact information in the chat once I am done providing all of my updates, and you can always email me or give me a call and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I do know that aside from the Studio City Park and Ride, which was one of the most pressing issues that a lot of our neighborhood council board members were concerned about, I know there were some other issues that Luis brought up to me as well. And I would like to provide some very quick updates in regards to that. And I'm sure it will answer a lot of the other questions that maybe others who are present today may have. So I know that those other areas include in Studio City include the people experiencing homelessness at Moore Park and the 101, Vineland and the 101, and the Coldwater Canyon Greenway River Wash. And it's evident that jurisdictions can sometimes be very difficult to understand. And some of these multi-jurisdictional some of these are multi-jurisdictional, meaning that they are either on city, state, and county property, or sometimes they are just on county property, sometimes they are just on city property. Same thing for people experiencing homelessness that are camping on just specifically state property. So I wanted to break it down and just discuss each one of these that are of concern, just so that everyone on here is able to have a better idea as to whose jurisdiction it falls under and how we're going to move forward to address these. So for the encampment on Moore Park and the 101, I know that a lot of the Studio City Neighborhood Council members have brought this up to me, and a lot of the neighborhood council board members on the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council have also brought these up to me. So for this one specifically, from the pictures you did send me, Luis, the encampment is located at the entrance of the Central Branch Tahunga Wash on Moore Park Street by the 101 freeway. And because that trash and debris and encampment is located on county property, I went to go ahead and reach out to our liaison at DPW to go ahead and clear out the trash and debris and to connect with outreach services to be provided to the person experiencing homelessness there. So as soon as I have, they're very quick, our Department of Public Works team, they're great. And I did go ahead and connect with them earlier today. And I am still waiting for a response, but as soon as I hear something back from them, I'll be more than happy to send you an email and provide you some updates in regards to that. And then I did want to go ahead and mention that you also mentioned in that email that a lot of the people experiencing homelessness sometimes are hanging out under the bridge, and sometimes they do leave behind some trash and debris. So if that trash and debris is located on the sidewalk under the bridge, that is technically under the jurisdiction of the city. If they are, let's say the trash and debris or the homeless encampment is located on the on-ramp or the off-ramp of the freeway, that would technically be considered state property. But it gets very confusing, and I'm always more than happy to just clarify for you if you are questioning it. You can reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help you on that end. Moving forward for the encampment on Vineland Avenue and the 170 freeway, I think in your email, Luis, you mentioned it was the Vineland Avenue on the 101, but it was a 170 if I'm correct, because you mentioned that it was near the Garland Hotel, so that kind of just makes it
Yeah,
a little more.
everything was by the wash, was just the trash going into
Yeah.
into the wash itself and getting Public Works to clean the wash, but send
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
medical services for the
Mhm.
homeless encampments creating that.
Yeah, so for this one specifically, it is on near the 170 freeway by the Garland Hotel, and by the North Weddington Recreation Center. So it seems like it's also, from the picture that you sent, it's also on the wash. So that is county property. So I did reach out to our liaison again at DPW to clear out the trash and debris and to connect with outreach services to be provided to the people experiencing homelessness there as well. For the Coldwater Canyon Greenway River Wash, I know that one was in question as well. I do need further clarification about where the encampments are located, and if they are on the wash themselves, then I will also go ahead and reach out to the Department of Public Works, but we can perhaps have that a conversation offline just to go ahead and clear that out.
No problem.
And then other than that, like I've mentioned throughout my entire presentation, I'm always more than happy to have an offline conversation with you if you do have any specific questions. And if there are any questions right now, I'm more than happy to take them and see if I can answer them.
If anybody from the committee has a question, that's great. I mean, the main question that's coming up was in regards to the Ralphs, and basically the Ralphs manager, I met with him and stated that the Ralphs has become basically a pantry for the park and ride encampment, and that it's getting pretty aggressive. In 6 months' time, it was $350,000 in inventory lost in 6 months. He's spending $60,000 on security, and he had a assistant get punched, and then he had a security guard that had their leg broken. So it's basically driven by food and survival. So my question is, as a resolution with the county services that are coming out there, can something be done in regards to, I come from a emergency food background, in regards to not so much to enable, but to just for just a humane treatment, is to get some sort of food to prevent that kind of behavior. Is that something that can be addressed?
So that is, I'll definitely, I did receive your email in regards to, you went really, you went in depth and in detail about exactly what was happening at that Ralph's. So I'll make sure to go ahead and review that with our team when we meet with them this week in regards to the park and ride lot, just so that it adds a little bit more pressure on that end. But I will also, I did also want to mention that there are some different organizations and just folks that are caring for these people experiencing homelessness on the lot that go out there throughout the week to provide them with hot meals. I do not remember the name of the folks that are going out there currently, but I have had them reach out to me to let me know personally that they're going out there and providing them hot meals every week. So.
Okay. Well, I'll check in with Antoinette in regards to that and see what's going on as far as, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think I see 2 hands up, calling user 2 and calling user 3. Do you want to go ahead and?
I need to default to Randy or Scott right now. Is that up for public comment? Is that okay to do?
If not, we can definitely go ahead and have offline conversations about this specifically. I'll go ahead and put or I'll give you all my contact information because I don't see the chat box.
Yeah, so one is a chat feature is disabled during neighborhood council meetings per guidance from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. However, as it relates to hands raised, as it is an agenda item with government reps, that means that we are required to have public comment on every agenda item.
Okay.
So that means, so just whoever
would like to speak.
Okay,
Diane, unmute.
Okay, Brandon,
Yes.
your hand's up.
Oh, I'm competing with Goat Puppet here. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, Goat. I've got the floor. Hold on, I got the floor. This question is actually for Lorraine Diaz, if I may. I know it's a distance away, but redistricting. there's a very good chance we're
The
not going to be
listing,
CD2.
And this has got to be formed and done. And we need to be doing it
We
right
gotta
now.
mute these people. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, redistricting. I know it's in the future. I know it's a distance away, but is it the notion of not being us not being part of CD2 anymore affecting any future resources, allocations, services? Maybe in the near future, but maybe later on in 2022. And are you currently working with, say, CD4, that if we do become CD4, will there be a smooth transition during the redistricting? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So just so you know, Lorraine, you're unable to, some of you are unable to
Unmute,
mute yourself. Yeah. So
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, I wasn't able to unmute myself, so sorry. So your question is, will it affect anything in the future? Yes, it will affect a lot of things in the future, mostly because projects that are proposed months and sometimes years in advance. So a new council district, if a new council district were to cover the area that, that is Studio City now, they may not be as familiar with, projects that are already in the pipeline, or they may not be able to advance projects that they're not aware of or that they're not as familiar with, or maybe that don't meet, that aren't aligned with their goals or their, vision for how they want to spend funding. So while, for example, if we allocated funding for a particular park project that we thought, hey, maybe this community deserves, or would like, community center or playground equipment or whatever it is, and the new, office decides that, this money would be better spent putting in a walking path or something like that. There are some things like that that we don't really have any control over. As far as, are we working with CD4 currently? We're working with CD4 in using our current boundaries. I mentioned our partnership on our shared border locations. Whoever ends up, because we know we're going to lose some pieces, we're going to gain other pieces, and we don't know where that will be. But we are putting together kind of like exit memos for our areas so that people are familiar with, things. And we're hoping to make connections with neighborhoods and neighbors, to make those introductions so that there is more of a smooth transition. However, having gone through redistricting 10 years ago, I'm dating myself here. I do remember that because it is so quick that you're kind of, doing, this version of CD2, and then now we're doing the next version of CD2. You're just, you are kind of laying down the track as you're barreling down the tracks there. So it does make it a little more complicated, but we will try to make it as smooth as possible.
Let's do this. We just in consideration of time, perhaps we'll take all of those 4 hands up. We'll take all of those comments / questions, and then once we hear all that, then Lorraine and or Brenda, if there are things that you guys feel is appropriate to respond to, you'll respond. Is that okay? Okay with you, Luis?
Yeah, I just remember we also have, I want to take all questions, but we also have a state representative here too.
Oh, goodness, yes. Okay, well, let's, so you want to,
maybe she can present.
We've taken, well, we've started down the path of public comment. I apologize. I didn't realize there was one more person for representative, sorry.
Yeah.
So let's just go down the path, finish this public comments on this agenda item, and then we can hear from our government, the one remaining government rep. So there's a hand up. You go ahead and you just choose who you want to call next, and then I'll unmute them.
Hey, Brenda, thank you so much for being here. It's great to talk with you again. My group is called Homemade Thursdays. We work directly with Council District 4, and obviously NoHo Home Alliance is amazing. I love them, so they're going there on a regular basis. My question for you is, do you have a hard out date for closing the park and ride? Because the Sheriff's Department keeps going there and telling people that they're going to get kicked out. And thank you for the non-displacement cleanup. Really, really appreciate that.
Okay. Gotcha, Brenda.
Awesome. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Kira. I just wanted to make sure that you were the same Kira I was in contact with through email. But yes, so actually, we do not have a hard out date in terms of when the park and ride lot is going to be completely cleared out. And I really appreciate you letting me know that the sheriff's department is going out there and telling the people experiencing homelessness on the lot that they are going to be cleared out. I will definitely go ahead and bring this up to our team this week when we meet so that they're aware that this is happening. But I'll be in touch with you in regards to any other transitions that will be happening at the park and ride lot. I know that you're one of the trusted partners out at this park and ride, and we definitely rely on you and the other providers to make a sweet transition for these people experiencing homelessness to these permanent and transitional housing. So we'll definitely be in touch, Kara. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Scott.
Hi, thanks. Question for Brenda. You mentioned the gates at the park and ride. I've never seen those gates shut. They were open today. They've been open every time I've been there, and it doesn't seem to be a deterrent for trash if the gates are opened. Also, when you're talking about the Tujunga Wash, are you also talking about inside the wash itself? Because the trash is piling up inside the actual wash from the encampments near Bellflower. And it's actually going to be pretty bad once the rains come. Also for Lorraine, with the substantive decrease in the population in the encampments, how are the tiny homes and the bridge homes and such in CD2? Are they at capacity, near capacity? Is there any room for more? Thanks.
Let's go ahead and start with, go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, thank you for those questions, Scott. The gates, in regards to the gates, I'm not completely sure if they are being shut or closed at a certain time. I will definitely go ahead and check in on that. And then I will go ahead and respond in an email to Luis, and then he can go ahead and share that information with everybody else. In regards to the trash in the wash near Bellflower you mentioned, I would suggest you send me an email with a little bit more detailed information in regards to where exactly it's located, and then I can go ahead and make that request to our liaison at the Department of Public Works.
Scott, I can go out on Friday and take photos if you need to, no problem, and I'll forward that to Brenda.
Awesome, thank you, Luis.
Okay. And Lorraine, let me find Lorraine real quick. I lost you, Lorraine. There you are, sorry.
Thank you. And then actually real quick to piggyback on Brenda's question about the gates. I concur with Scott that the gates are never closed. LAPD did request that the gates be closed, and Public Works responded that they cannot close them while there are people inside, because then that would prevent them leaving. So you may want to check with them on that. And then also, I'm sorry, Scott, I feel like the question directed to me, I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Hold on.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, no
Does
problem.
anybody remember what the question was?
Oh,
sorry, I remember now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Long day, sorry. Our tiny homes are not at capacity. We had one, well, actually, I'll give you an update on all of our sites. Our Raymer site is full. It's currently under quarantine. Our Van Nuys, it should be coming off quarantine later this week. Our Van Nuys site has about 3 or 4 open beds, mostly female. That one has consistently been pretty full. Chandler is always at capacity. As soon as one person leaves, we have one person to fill it right back up again. So we've had pretty consistent, population there. At Alexandria, they were on quarantine for almost 2 months, which ended mid-September. So we are not at capacity there. I believe right now we have about 78 people, and it has a capacity of 200. So there is still space at our Alexandria site. And our Whitsett West site, as of Friday, I think their population is about 25, and they have a capacity of 150. But they've only been open about 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. So we do still have beds available. So We get a lot of questions from LAPD and from the public, from people experiencing homelessness themselves, like, hey, I'm waiting for a bed, I'm waiting for a tiny home, this, that. No one is waiting for any beds. We have beds available. If you are experiencing a delay in connecting people to those available beds, please let me know. Oftentimes the clog is in the pipeline, in the, somewhere along the outreach, LASA, whatever connected services pipeline, there's some sort of a delay there, because there is no delay as far as availability. So our office does like to get very involved. We can reverse match if necessary. So if you find that there are people waiting for beds, no one should be waiting for a bed. We have available beds.
Antoinette.
Yes, my question is for Lorraine as well. More so about the catchment zones for each of the shelters. Can you talk a little bit more about where those boundary locations are, and if there actually is coordination between CD2 and CD4 at those boundary spots for referrals to your catchment zone locations?
Oh. Long day, Lorraine. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Thank you, Liz. So is there coordination between us and CD4? They don't have to run them by us. We've already notified LASA that when there are people who have been geocoded to the locations at our CD4 or CD2 shared borders, and who have been there historically, they can just be matched right to one of our sites, whatever sites they are closest to, or has an available bed. As far as the catchment areas, for our bridge housing, our Raymer site and our Van Nuys site, our entire council district is the catchment zone. They can be anywhere in our council district and be eligible for a bed. That is also the case for Chandler, which is one of the reasons why it's consistently full. For the other two sites, for Alexandria and for Whitsett West, they have their own catchment area because they are a little, one is more centered in our district and the other one is farther north. They essentially their catchment area encompasses the middle section of our council district, the northern section of our council district. There's one additional criteria for those two sites. It is a date that they must have been, experiencing homelessness in our council district prior to, it's a rolling date, but it's basically they have to have been in our council district at least 6 months in order to qualify for those two locations, Alexandria and Whitsett West. One of the reasons for this is because of the popularity of Chandler, we did receive both calls and people from all over, not just the city, but all over the state, and even in some cases other states, where people were calling to reserve a bed or things like that. And so it just became necessary to install a date criteria. However, people who are, just set foot in CD2 yesterday or today, even, they do qualify for a bed, just not a bed in our two most recent tiny home villages.
Thank you. Call in user 2. I'm trying.
Hi, this is Ruth. I'm your roofless neighbor, and I think I'm the only homeless person on this call. I just wanted to point that out. I've been asking for about a year for you guys to change the name of the committee, maybe to like the Sidewalks Committee or the Landlords Committee or the House People Committee, because you guys don't talk to like us directly and you guys don't invite us to these meetings, which actually displace us and have actually killed some of us. There was a 24-year-old who had his nebulizer thrown away in a sweep last year and he died of asthma. We suspect he got COVID too, but I can't believe you guys are talking about sending people to locations that are actually locked down under quarantine. You heard her, right? You guys are crazy and murderous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sheila Kuehl. Sorry. I'm trying to unmute here.
Yes, about time.
Oh, Go Puck. Go ahead, Go Puppet.
Yes, the all-powerful, mighty Goat Puppet. Goat Puppet 2.0. Stronger than ever. Yes. finally. So, you have the war criminal. Which one? There's so many. Yes, the one from Sheila Kuehl's office. And what we want to know is one thing. One when the hell you remove condominiums? We've been trying for a year and a half, and we keep getting lied to. And you never come to Tarzana, and you never come to the Encino Neighborhood Council, but you're there for Randy Fried Chicken doing business as Randy Fraud Free anytime he wants. What is that?
Go Puppet, do you have a question that pertains to the agenda item? I'm supposed to comply with the manual here, and when someone makes public comment, it's supposed to be about the agenda item on the floor. So if you have a question for the city or the county representatives, that would be helpful.
Well, Jesus fucking Christ, what have you been talking about? You've been talking about homeless encampments all this time, haven't you? Pull back your Mr. I can't understand. Yes. All as you do, people, all as you do is except for the Alex Villanueva, who actually goes in and tries to do something for all of us. And we want our lives back. And the poor Ralph's Fresh Fare. I can't even shop there anymore. I drive further west to the pretty one. There's another one? Oh, yes. That's a beautiful one in CD4. They have a nice one. Paul Krikorian's Ralph's looks like a fucking shithole out of Lebanon. That's why he's leaving. And that's why he's going to abandon you and give it to Nithya Ramen Noodle. Because she doesn't know what's going on in Studio City. And remember, the most important thing, Paul Martin Krikorian sold his house and left Studio City and left.
Okay, that's time. Thank you, Go Puppet. I think that's everything, Randy, for public comment. We can get Emma to speak and then take public comment.
We confirm to Sheila Kuehl success.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't able to unmute that. I thought that was somehow connected with Go Puppet. I didn't know what was going on. Thank you. Go ahead. I've tried to unmute that. Are you there?
They're currently unmuted.
Okay.
The powerful one has returned.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going on. Okay, so can
Go
we
ahead.
get Emma? Sorry about that, Emma. And
hi there.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with everyone tonight. Glad to be back at the Studio City Homelessness Committee, and to see lots of old friends and some new faces. And really glad to see Lorena in here and Brenda. Really just want to start by reiterating that our office, I'm Emma Taylor, District Director for Assemblymember Nazarian. I've been with his office for about 5 years. I started out as a field deputy for him starting in late winter 2017, and I was covering homelessness then and have been covering it ever since. And so I'm really glad to be here tonight. And one of the things I really wanted to reiterate from the jump off, having Brenda and Lorraine here, is that, hold on just one second. Sorry. Is that our office works extremely closely, as you guys know, with CD2 and all the council districts that our office overlaps with. It's actually about 5, which is a little crazy, but we work closest with CD2 always. And we work very closely with the county also, especially on issues of jurisdictional matters and pertaining to homelessness, especially when dealing with Caltrans, because we know that jurisdictional issues are extremely confusing, especially for our constituents and even for us. You know, one of the first things that we teach new people who come into our office are these jurisdictional issues, and they still are confusing. They're confusing for Caltrans, they're confusing for us sometimes, they're confusing for Public Works, and that's not even considering the washes. And so, you know, feel free when you guys are confused about jurisdictions to throw things over to us and ask, you know, send us photos. This is one of the things that Luis and I talked about most recently. I talked him through sending us CSR requests. CSR requests are customer service requests, and they're submitted through the Caltrans website, which I've given most neighborhood councils a couple times. I can't remember if I gave it to you guys the last time I was on. And so it's a pretty easy website to remember. It's dot.ca.gov, because the government likes a lot of dots in the middle of things. But it's basically, if you think about it, Caltrans is really just the Department of Transportation for the state of California. And so you're able to put in customer service requests through there. If you don't want to do it yourself, that's totally fine. The instructions I've given Luis and I've given to a lot of other community members is, if you're able to send me exact locations and descriptions, that's basically the best thing that you guys can do as far as feeding information to our offices. As far as state jurisdictions, thinking about the freeways is really the best way to think about it. Caltrans does have jurisdiction around the freeways and pretty much all of the areas around them, except for sidewalks. Underpasses, anything that is basically a sidewalk, most of the time is going to be LA City. I basically explain to people, if you're walking on a sidewalk, it's LA City jurisdiction. Mostly surrounding freeways, there are going to be fencing. There's usually fencing. Caltrans is actually pretty good about this. And the fencing usually is going to have holes in it. It's going to be ripped. There's going to be issues with it. But that fencing is very good for seeing jurisdictional boundaries. We use it, I would say, the most for understanding the jurisdictional boundaries. And so understanding that a fence that is next to a freeway delineates usually where Caltrans property begins. So I was talking to Luis about being able to give us specific directional information. The way to best do that, I don't know if everyone here is like directionally challenged, but it is a good time to kind of learn your north, south, east, west, or just understand freeway on and off ramps, because this is kind of the best way to describe things to me. Just by saying, you know, Laurel and Laurel Canyon and the 101, you know, if we think about that, that's a pretty big intersection, Laurel Canyon and the 101. So being able to tell me specifically, oh, you know, there is a lot of trash and debris at the Laurel Canyon 101 intersection at the southbound entrance. The southbound entrance, I'll be able to know where that is. And so that gives me a lot of information, because basically I have to take that information and fill out a CSR request that I can translate to Caltrans and talk to my Caltrans liaison so that they can basically translate that for our maintenance crews who actually need to go out there. And if our maintenance crews don't have enough information, a lot of times those maintenance requests go to the back of the line. So this is one of the reasons why we need a lot of information to give to Caltrans. One of the things that is exciting is that you guys have probably seen that the governor has gotten extremely gung-ho about cleaning the freeways. This has been like one of his many things that he's very excited about this year. But this has definitely been, I would say, one of the things that he's extremely excited about. And the state actually has put $1.1 billion into the California cleanup, a multi-year cleanup effort to remove trash, create thousands of jobs, and engage communities to transform roadsides along the freeways, basically. We're already starting to see that. Caltrans has been engaging with our office, with CD2, and with several other council offices and state offices to start doing some beautification and cleanup projects along the freeway in different parts of LA County so far. The other thing that I will tell you guys is in the 5 years that I've worked in our office, maintenance has basically pushed back on every single thing that we have ever asked them for. And they're still giving us a lot of pushback, and Lorraine can testify to this. They're still pushing back in a lot of ways, but they're saying yes to things now in ways that I've never seen before. They are basically, they have money for the first time, and it's because the governor has decided to make cleanups a priority and giving Caltrans an actual budget. The other thing that I am glad to tell you guys today is that the assembly member is extremely unhappy with Caltrans right now because he thinks that they really have not stepped up, and they have not. Our office has had a very frustrating relationship with them recently and really have not felt like they have done their job properly. We were very frustrated with them throughout the pandemic, and that was due to a lot of cutbacks. But what I can say is that I think we're in a new era. I'm really happy that the city council district has a bi-weekly meeting or a twice a month meeting. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, with our Caltrans liaisons to go over sites with them that I can attend as often as possible. They're doing a lot of work actually with the city council offices, even though they're a state agency, because they know that the city council offices have beds available for the people experiencing homelessness. And through my conversations with Caltrans, they have said to me, you know, they want to have a really close working relationship with our city partners, because our city partners are going to be the ones making beds available to people experiencing homelessness. So if we have encampments on state properties, they want to make sure that that if we need beds available to those people, they might possibly be able to you know, access beds in city jurisdictions. But that also brings up that, you know, the state needs to also be doing its own to bring beds into the area, which obviously we're always bringing funding for beds, but, you know, we need to be more than just bringing funding. And so one of the big exciting things this year is there was obviously money initially at the beginning of COVID for right after Project Roomkey started, the governor was inspired to create long-term sites. And so he created Project Homekey. And so just as of right now, in our district, we have 3 Project Homekey sites already. And I think in Lorraine, maybe not even in our district, but Lorraine, I think you in CD2, you even have maybe outside of our district, I think have some, but within 8046, we have 3 sites. And then from speaking with the governor's office, there's $12 billion through the recent budget that's going to be put towards more Project Homekey sites. There's already been about 9,000 individuals housed across the state, and there's going to be so many more. The first batch were really motels and hotels that were you know, turned into supportive housing through kind of adaptive reuse and turned into SROs. And the new projects are going to be also creating these long-term solutions. And so we're really excited about that. I also am really excited that this year is the first year in the state budget that there was $1 billion put towards homelessness funding, and it's going to be ongoing funding. This was one of the big pushes towards homeless advocates within LA County. There was a really big push. Assemblywoman Luz Rivas pushed it. She's a San Fernando Valley Assembly member. The Assembly member Nazarian was a co-author on it. And it got pulled into the budget. And right now there's ongoing funding for 3 years, but we're confident it's going to become an ongoing part of the general fund moving forward. And California has never had ongoing funding for homelessness ever. And you know, it's $1 billion. And if you look at New York City alone has ongoing funding for homelessness of $2 billion a year. And our state is finally investing $1 billion a year of ongoing funding. So this is a big step. And should we have more funding? Yeah, we probably should. But it is a really big step for us. And a lot of advocates are really excited about this because it is a big step forward. And so, you know, right now we're working on a lot of stuff in our office. I would say one of the biggest things that we've been working on throughout the pandemic is, sorry, I just maximized my note, like the whole computer was yellow. Is we've been working with people with unemployment for the last 19 months, trying to get people their unemployment. We're really trying to work on homelessness prevention right now, and the ERAP program on the state level. So if you know anyone experiencing homelessness, we're working with people who are experiencing homelessness on both unemployment and the rental relief program. So feel free to send people to our office if they need help on either of those issues. And then, yeah, we're just going to continue working with Caltrans, working with our city and county partners on these issues. And we're really here to be a resource for everyone working on housing and resources and funding moving forward. So yeah, those are kind of all of my big updates for tonight.
Emma, thank you. And again, Emma's available. You can contact her directly or contact me, and I will happily forward the information. We'll go ahead and take public comment now. Kira?
Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for being here. I'm not sure if you would know the answer to this, or maybe you can direct me to the right department.
Yeah.
When a new project home key site opens, how do they decide who the service provider for that will be? Because I understand that as a general member of the public that, you know, that we can't be giving that information out to just, you know, general members of the public, but it seems like the service providers are not aware of when those projects are coming online. And someone said earlier that no one is waiting for beds, and that's just a complete lie. Anyone who does outreach knows that there are plenty of people waiting for beds. So it can be hopeful to people, I think, to know that a new project site might be opening up. But it doesn't seem like the service providers are being made aware of when they're coming on and where they are going to be. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. So this was actually, I had a call with the Housing Community Development Department at the state just a month ago, actually about their poor communication skills, because they actually had a grand opening in our district and didn't invite us. And so I was like, okay, you guys clearly have a lot of communication skills that you need to work on. And so all of the information about service providers is public information. And that should be one of the things that we can send you. Is the Project Home Key Legislative Report. That is on the State Housing Community Development website, and that has all of the sites and the service providers. And because all of these sites they all go out to bid, and they were all awarded. So all of the sites, for example, in our district were awarded to the County Housing Authority. And then the County Housing Authority chose housing for chose service providers, and I don't know if they did that through a bid process or how they did that exactly, because I didn't ask for the gritty details basically, but that's all through this. So that may have been through the bid process also, Kira, but that should be in this legislative report that I can send you. But that was one of the things that I did ask them about, was how they, whether they were working with service providers, about how the service providers were finding participants, or how, basically I was asking about all of that. But, I think as long as they're going with service providers, and if the service providers are using criteria laid out by the continuum of care or the city or the jurisdiction that they're under, that I think as far as the state goes, that is deemed acceptable by the state as far as the funding goes. So, within our continuum of care, which would be LA County, if they're using either CES or going through the city council, whether they're going through their process as well. And if those are acceptable ways through the continuum of care, then I guess that is, then the state deems those acceptable ways for them to find people to live in Project Home Key. So I'm not exactly sure about that process, but that's definitely something to, I would say, to meet with the provider and ask them. I think for some of these sites, they get people, like LA Family Housing runs one of the sites, and they get people directly through the CES system, or it's people through who, they're the lead for SPA 2. And so it would be through the CES system.
Okay, great. Thank you, Emma. Scott?
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
I actually have a map, a Google map with geotagged photos with exact coordinates, locations of all the issues within our area. There's been an uptick in some of the Caltrans property as far as trash, damaged gates, and encampments. I'm going to make a few revisions to it over the weekend. I'll run it past Luis as well, and then I'll get you a copy of that, and you will have the exact coordinates with a photo overlaid over a Google map showing you all the Caltrans issue. Also for you too, Brenda, it'll also contain the locations inside the Tahunga Wash where there's trash buildup. Thank you.
I'm a huge map nerd, Scott, like huge map nerd, like geographical, huge nerd. I would love that. And I do think that moving forward, it might be best for us to all be working off of like a Google Sheets document. And I don't know if that works with the Brown Act, so maybe we shouldn't be doing that. But if you guys could just send me that map for now, maybe that would be best. But getting 15 emails that I have to all keep track of the different sites, that's kind of hard. So this map seems like a very good way for me to be able to track all of those sites.
So long as the map is accessible to
the public,
anyone, yep, then it would not be violating the Brown Act.
Okay,
and also,
cool.
I'll use my hi Emma, we haven't met. I'm here. So I'm not.
I think we met at the last meeting. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for coming. I just want to. I'll take 5 seconds.
That's totally fine.
Luis, actually, I just wanted to point out that make a correction. Lorraine Diaz was in line. I think what Lorraine Diaz, and she can speak for herself, but what was saying as it relates to not waiting for beds, people waiting for beds, is in reference specifically to facilities that are in CD2 and that there are beds in CD2 that are available. Is that correct, Lorraine? Oh,
Oh,
yes.
she's muted.
There you go,
Sorry,
Lorraine.
I'm kind of scarfing down in between.
No worries.
Gotcha,
It's late. I
gotcha.
get it.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Rebby. That is exactly what I meant. So no one in CD2 should be waiting for a bed. We have available beds. So that's why I mentioned that if anyone says they are waiting for a bed, it may be a clog in the system of outreach, LASA, the match or this, that, the other. And please let me know. So Kira, if you have people that are waiting for a bed, please send me that information and we will make sure that they get matched to a bed as quickly as possible.
I mean, to that point, Antoinette and her team basically just had to transport a resident. They just needed the ride, and they were able to do that. And I know that person had been on the street for months, and sometimes it's that simple of an outreach, which is why it's important that Antoinette and those types of teams are out there, in addition to the state and city and county teams.
Well, thank you, Antoinette.
And then lastly, just want to point out, since we started a second round of public comment, so for example, Kira has now made 2 comments. Anyone else who doesn't already have their hand up, if you commented the first go around, for example, Brandon, if you'd like to make a second comment, that way everyone is given equal time, please raise your hand now.
Well, I got to get Go Puppet up here. Go Puppet, do you comment on the agenda item?
Yes. So of course, and
it's one minute, Go Puppet.
Yes, and again, the best thing, of course, is not seeing the war criminal Jessica Fulgate here destroying everything. And Miss Diaz is doing a fine job undoing the damage of the war criminal Jessica Fulgate. Yes. So of course, what we want is one thing for Studio City. Oh, thank you for limiting it that. Yes, of course. We would just like that parking lot by the 101 perfectly clean and pretty once again. That's what we're looking for. And Caltrans can help a lot, like they did over in Encino. What are you talking about? Oh, they came over and cleaned up both sides of our freeway pass. All as they did it. Goat Puppet said the magic word. What's that? Well, he said Villanueva for re-election. Yes, and that's all you have to do, everybody, because the only friend you have is Alex Villanueva. Re-elect him for sheriff. He's maybe even mayor at the same time. Yeah, so we want everybody out of that parking lot. So once again, Goat Puppet can return next door to the Ralph's Fresh Fair at 101 and do his shopping again conveniently and nicely. That's what we want, right?
Yes. Thank you. That's time. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. No,
Antoinette.
Yeah, my question is, as a person who works for a service provider in CD2, something that clogs up our system at least is that we will put in a referral for a location and they may not be in the right catchment zone, or it might be on lockdown, and it seems like there's a bit of a communication lag between the matchers and the actual sites. Is there a way for there to be more communication passed through between the service providers, such as those of us who do matching or referrals, so that we don't have clients who are waiting months? I mean, I have clients who have referrals in the pipeline that have been waiting for, 100 days, 200 days that are in CD2 district. And so I understand that it could be a clog in the system, but when I hear you say that there are available beds and I have clients that are still asking, why are we still on the street? My response has to be because no one has matched that. So like, what do we need to do to make that move a little faster for people with asthma or health conditions that are matching with COVID, that have the acuity scores to get off the street and they are still not being matched to sites in CD2?
One of the reasons that our office became very involved in the matching process and in, you know, matching people to our sites and referring, is because of this frustration that why is there a delay if we have empty beds? That shouldn't happen. So we have a weekly, you know, weekly virtual meeting with LASA and with the matchers and whatnot. And we don't do specific case conferencing unless, you know, our office is providing the information. LASA is very, you know, I think at this point they're kind of notorious for not sharing information. And I think that happens within their own system as well, because oftentimes they won't tell the outreach worker why someone hasn't been matched or why they didn't qualify for a particular program. If you find that there are delays and you do have people waiting, you know, 100 days, I mean, really, if they've been waiting for 5-10 days, please reach out to me. My email address, it's, you know, my name is here, Lorraine Diaz, CD2. My email address is lorraine.diaz@lacity.org. Please email me directly if you have these situations. Feel free to call our office as well, so that we can kind of just work them out one by one. We've been doing this with our service provider for our tiny home sites, Hope of the Valley. They also run our navigation center. Anytime that they've run into an issue, it's just easier if they kind of run it through our office and then we go through our LASA contacts, because going through their channels, that pipeline seems to be a little more closed just because they are dealing with the entire San Fernando Valley, the entire spot too. And there's just so many people, you know, that they're interacting with, whereas we just have one contact and that goes directly to our available beds. So it's a much shorter pathway. But I'd like to say, you know, do it the LASA way, you know, anyway, just so that, you know, to cover yourself on your end. But I would say if you're able to copy us on whatever referrals you put in, feel free. But I would say work with our office. That's obviously that's going to be the answer I gave you. But we find that it works. We found actually, you know, to kind of give a shout out to one of our neighborhood councils, NoHo West called me Thursday night. One of the neighborhood council members called me Thursday night, told me about an autistic gentleman who had been at the library, at the Valley Plaza Library every day. And come to find out, he's been going to the navigation center to receive services every day for a year. And somehow, even though he was in our district, he's, you know, clearly has some challenges. You know, he met all the criteria for, you know, being matched to one of our beds. And yet somehow he was still, you know, experiencing homelessness in a park where he needed to be at the library every day. So because of the neighborhood council members who saw him day in and day out at the library, who connected him to our office, I actually met him over at Alexandria Friday morning, just the very next morning, and we were able to move him right in. So I would love to do that for your participants. I would hate to see them languishing in the system that clearly needs some repair.
Great, thanks, Lorraine. Antoinette, I can get your Lorraine's information quickly. I'll get it to you tomorrow, okay?
Thanks.
We have Barbara, one last public comment. Is it call-in user 2? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Call-in user 2. Hi.
Hi, this is Ruth. I wanted to say that the 5.7 million Housing Navigation Center, I had a case open with them for a year, and like, well, my significant other did. I've also been in the CES, and I had a similar experience. They closed the case after a whole year, and my significant other had called and checked up on it like periodically whenever they told him to, and like, I don't know why it's allowed that they can close somebody's case who has a high vulnerability. I mean, to me, that's completely murderous, like I said before. If you're ranking people based on their vulnerability, their risk of death if not assisted, how come you can close so many cases every single day? 50 cases closed, and that's 50 vulnerable people being not only turned down for the housing that they've been waiting on for a year or so or more, but it's also like making it harder for them to get services in the future, because then they get marked as service resistant. I don't see how $5.7 million for a housing navigation center that navigates people farther away from housing and forces them to live without housing assistance, so they end up not wanting housing. I don't see how that's ethical or a good use of homelessness funds. And yeah, I think that the money should go to private market vouchers, so that people can actually get housed in regular houses. We're not bedless, we're not serviceless, we're homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. I really appreciate, we just have a couple more short agenda items here, but I appreciate our rep. Julie, is that you? Did you have a question? Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. Sorry about that.
Hi, no, I noticed that we've had a lot of public comment, but the actual committee members hadn't been able to ask a question yet. So I have a question for Brenda and a question for Lorraine, if that's okay.
Of course.
Brenda, I wanted to ask you about the park and ride, our favorite topic. Clearly you guys are putting a lot of attention to it and getting a lot more services over there, which is really great. But that lot in particular has so many stories of crime, not just the Ralphs, but crime within the community that lives there, fires, assaults, etc. I'm just wondering if you mentioned like security being there, but I'm just wondering if there's any real effort over there being made to resolve the high level of crime that seems to be happening there. I guess while she oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just waiting for Luis.
Yeah, I got you. Sorry about that, Brenda. Go ahead.
Okay, Luis, thank you. Julie, thank you very much for your question. That has definitely been a topic of conversation that has come about many times. And right now, like I mentioned, we do have the security guard who is contracted from the Department of Public Works on site 7 days a week to provide security on the lot. And the majority of the time we've heard from our constituents that the security guard is not visible to the eye. There is no particular like station on the lot where this security guard is stationed. So that's definitely something that we're working on at the moment to ensure that he is visible to the eye to everyone that's on the people experiencing homelessness on the lot and to any of our other constituents. So that's in the works, but we have heard some issues about, you know, who should I contact if there is a crime happening, like let's say right now at the lot. And there has been a lot of confusion on that end. Some people say that it's LAPD, some say that it's LASD Park Bureau's division. So the correct person to contact at the moment is LASD Park Bureau division, but there are some ongoing issues at the moment with that because, you know, we have folks that have reached out and LASD has said that they are not the responsible party to address any of the crimes happening on that park lot, and neither is LAPD. So we are currently addressing that situation. And as soon as I have more information in regards to that, I'll definitely go ahead and let Luis know, and then he can go ahead and share with you if that's okay. And any particular questions that you have about the park and ride, you can email me directly. My email is B as in Brenda, Yanez, YANEZ, at BOS as in Board of Supervisor, .lacounty.gov.
Great. Well, that sounds really scary to be a security guard there. If it's just one person.
Yeah, so they alternate. It's not just the particular one person throughout the entire shift. There's about one or two, but yeah, that's currently what's in the works at the moment. I mean, the security guard himself is present at the lot just to make observations about exactly what's going on and report back to us. And if there is a crime happening at that moment, then they go ahead and follow protocol as instructed. But again, there's still that uncertainty in terms of who's supposed to respond to a crime, let's say a crime happening right now. So as soon as I have more clarity on that end, I'll make sure to go ahead and share with you all.
Thank you. Lorraine, I have a question for you regarding procedural stuff. I'm working on the committee with Luis, and I'm going to be and have been trying to follow the city council files and the resolutions that you are proposing and putting into place with Councilman Krikorian. And we were looking at some of the ones like with the 4118, and you talked about, it was a great education tonight about the resolutions and how you have to justify the locations for enforcement. And I was wondering, when you create that resolution, does it still have to be passed and approved by the council? Because I think I saw one has to be acted upon by the 20th, and you said there was 3. So you're putting those forth and the city council has to vote to approve those?
Correct. However, we don't foresee, because other council members will also have their own resolutions for their locations. There's kind of this assumption throughout the council where, that each council member knows their district best. So if they're proposing locations, it's pretty unlikely that that we would oppose each other's locations because we don't know the ins and outs of why they're requesting it. I think what's going to filter a lot of those kind of arbitrary locations out is that it does have to go through this approval process with the city attorney's office, and it does have to have that substantiating data. So we don't foresee the resolutions not being approved by a majority of the council.
Okay, and all 3 of those are still up for a vote, is that right?
I believe so. I will double check with our policy deputy Morgan tomorrow.
I'm thrilled to hear that you're doing that. So thank you for doing that. I just wanted to understand that process. Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? Okay. Basically, as far as committee comments on possible future agenda topics, I just wanted to give a little context. I've had this, Randy asked me to take this position back in August, and I had to do things that I know, and that's operations. And I wanted to create an open, safe space with a team of people, establish who and what offices handled jurisdiction, and ultimately, how I've done in my past when I was director of nonprofits or even some large operations, is to basically help those doing the work do their work better and help them get clarity on what's going on in these areas and these jurisdictions and define that, and also to help the residents of Studio City have a voice to alleviate a lot of anger and a lot of tensions so that they're heard. But also, and Savannah and Marcia have been helpful around this, is to reach out to them and let them know that we're here for them as a committee. And I'm a teacher, and so to teach them who to call, from talking to the police department, from talking to Antoinette, how to communicate, so on and so forth. So I'm going to continue doing that from the streets, but the committee and the neighborhood council by design, we're supposed to be putting forth motions and community impact statements that represent the voice. Well, I feel like we have our team now and we're on the streets regularly. So Julie has been a designate, and also Barbara, to monitor what's going on in the city council. And so Julie, could you just elaborate a little more what the future plan is to take it to the next level here as a committee and what we're going to be doing? There you go.
Yes, thank you, Luis. So yeah, I'm getting the city council files and the agendas. I'm reading through them. I'm looking for not only things that I see that are designated as CD2, but just other kind of cool ideas that look interesting. A lot of these things that I had jotted down tonight were brought up tonight, and it was great to hear you guys talk about these things. I really appreciate our speakers tonight. So yeah, I just was looking at the HMST, the similar program, which is the MDST that you talked about, that the CD3 looks like they're trying, but I think you mentioned that they're actually going to put teams in every council district for that. But anyway, I'll be looking for these issues. I know there's also an issue that has come up where they're looking at private storage facilities for the homeless. these types of things that I'll be calling to Luis's attention to see what things we might want to make motions about. And Lorraine will probably be calling you and asking you a bunch of questions about these things.
And also I've been looking at the conditions and the symptoms of a lot of the areas where a lot of our homeless population are residing and talking to those residents. And so a big part of it was a lot of reentry in the carceral system. And for the last year and a half, back when I was an advocacy lead for the NoHo Home Alliance, Measure J was passed. And so I've sat on the Reimagine LA coalition for the last year and a half. Every Friday after I do what I do in the streets, about 1 o'clock I'm back and I sit in on that meeting. So there's a lot of new and innovative things happening with county funding. So Brenda, I'll be talking to you in regards to that. A lot of that hasn't been put into motion yet, but to see how those county funds can actually reach the streets and benefit the homeless, specifically here in Studio City. So that's another area we'll be addressing. Root cause solution. And then Brandon and Barry have been very, very helpful. I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's like 6% of the houses that have been built or housing projects in Los Angeles have been affordable. So, you know, I mean, we have to look at the housing issue also. I mean, it can't be all people that have been from the carceral system or people that have drug addiction issues and things like that. We have to have affordability. So we'll be addressing that. That's an agenda item. Randy, am I supposed to have public comment for that?
You are. Every agenda item gets.
I understand. Going through my learning curve. Any questions? I'll go to call-in user 2. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, this is Ruth. I heard you talking about a map, like of all the homeless people, which I think is kind of super creepy. And also, I've asked to see it multiple times in these meetings, and I've never, ever seen it. And I just think that homeless people should be able to see if they're on this creepy map. Also, I have not gotten the minutes that were referred to earlier, and I don't see them on the website. I was wondering how those are getting distributed to people since I'm not getting any of these communications. Thank you.
Thank you. And Goat Puppet. Hello? Goat Puppet, do you have any public comment for a minute here in regards to the agenda item?
Oh. Go ahead. Let's give somebody else a chance.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, it's been a long time, hasn't it, Mr. Fraud? So what did we see tonight? What happened to Jessica?
She got deported.
Oh, excellent. Good, very good. Things are looking up higher. Remember, everybody, the poor people at the Fresh Fair, now called the Dirty Fair over at Rouse up the 101, is a cesspool of garbage and filth. I would recommend going further west where the beautiful people shop at the new Fresh Fair over there near Coldwater Canyon going west. It's a beautiful store, glass everywhere and light. Unlike that piece of shit store, yes. And this is the problem, isn't it? Who's going to give the money back that's been lost in security and staffing and shrinkage, known as homeless criminal stealing every day? And you, Sheila Kill, you have been the pig responsible for this in your fucking parking lot.
That's time, Go Puppet.
Yes, that's right.
Go Puppet, that's
Jessica
time.
Folgate, her coke.
That's time, Randy. Thank you. Hi, Kira.
Thank you. I just wanted to apologize to Lorraine and clarify. I was not calling you a liar, not you specifically. I was just saying that that statement that no one is waiting for a bed is false. And I appreciate the lead outreach housing navigator backing me up on that. So although I've been working directly with CD4, I will include you on referrals in the future. And I really appreciate your help on that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We're happy to, help where we can. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for public comment and closing comments by the chair. All I can say is maybe about 15 years ago, I moved here to raise my son at the First Christian Church, and the pantry was here. And they were, that was before the economic recession, and the recession hit, and the pantry's numbers were like 40,000 people below the poverty line a year. And I was a volunteer director for that. And I remember there was a huge increase in homeless people that were coming, and I saw that, and I remember talking to Councilman Kokorian in those early days, and I remember going to LA Family Housing and opting in to be the captain for the census count for the homeless community for Studio City, and in those days the surrounding areas, and I felt like I was all by myself in those days. And I even had a navigator on my front yard that was there from LA Family Housing. She was wonderful, and she placed about 30 to 60 people in 6 months period of time, and that was over a decade ago. So to be here in front of everybody, to just add some context and perspective, and with all the growing pains we've all been through, and to have at some, use a musical term, harmony, and some teamwork and a concerted effort is very hopeful for me. And I just, from my heart of hearts, for you representatives that have been here, thank you so much. I'm glad the committee gets to see the family of people we have out there. This is our neighborhood, so we've got to take care of it. There's no unicorns or fairies flying in to save us here. This is where it's at, and progressive change happens on the streets, okay? So thank you very much. The next meeting will be in December, but we'll be in clear and constant communication over the next weeks to come, okay? Everybody, please have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.